There's been a lot of information circling the internet recently concerning Arknights Endfield and its gacha system, how predatory it is, how pay to win it is, how free to play friendly it is. Admittedly, I've contributed a little bit to that with a video I did titled Arknights Endfield has one major problem, where I touched on the gacha. I gave my genuine thoughts on it. Today, I want to delve deeper into it, and I want to clarify some things because I think we might have been wrong. Now let's start this off by talking about the 120 guarantee. This headhunting banner has a 120 attempt guarantee to give the featured up 6-star operator. This guarantee can only trigger once and will be reset when the headhunting banner expires. The guarantee will not carry over to subsequent headhunting banners. Now here is the argument I've heard from people that actually support this. On the one hand, you have a 50-50, which you can see down the bottom right of the screen. This 50-50 allows for you to, much like Wuthering Waves, acquire with a 50% chance the limited banner characters. So in this case, it's Surtur or Levitain, but I mean, this is Surtur, let's be honest. Now, if you fail this, and you can, because there is no hard cap on that 50-50 after the limited guarantee. So if you do fail this at the 50-50, you are guaranteed it at 120. Now, if you fail your 50-50 in Wuthering Waves at 80, then pity, your guarantee will be 160. In Genshin Zenless Honkai Star Rail, the guarantee is at 180. The guarantee here is at 120. So this is actually significantly more free-to-play friendly because all you have to do is hit 120 if you fail. And much like Zenless, much like Wuwa, much like all the big gacha games, you have your chance at hitting 50 or obtaining the character with your 50-50. But once again, after you hit that guarantee, it is no longer possible to guarantee another copy of this character in the same banner. Now you might argue, yeah, sure, but we don't need dupes in the game, but honestly, there are plenty of people that do. There are plenty of people that actively seek out dupes. Free players, paying players. I held a poll on my YouTube channel that got 11,000 votes where I asked, do you roll for dupes in gacha games? Where almost 40% of the voters answered yes. That is almost 40% of people that acquire with this guarantee that would want additional characters, which means naturally you're going to roll once again to attempt to hit that pity at 80, which in Wuthering Waves, you would hit every 160. In Genshin or all of Hayu's games, you'd hit it every 180. There would always be a guarantee after the initial, 80 or 160 or 180, whatever you have. So here, for players that are only interested in obtaining a single copy, which is probably more than half the total player base, this is significantly more friendly to you, significantly more friendly on your overall currency. But for what is potentially half or a little less than half the total player base, it is not. Because you can fail at 160, you can fail at 320, you can continue to fail every 80 indefinitely. So obtaining a duplicate character could potentially be significantly more free to play or more player unfriendly, spender unfriendly, or even saver unfriendly. I'm sure plenty of you are just going to save up and hit that 120 cap, absolutely no problem. And then we'll move on to the next banner character. But for 37-40% of us, when we save up and we want dupes, we want to be able to actually obtain them. This right here, this system will highly deter us from doing that, but not only will it deter us from doing that, it'll deter whales from spending. And at the end of the day, the success of a game is dependent on how many people are actively spending on it. If nobody wants to spend on your game, you're not going to have much of a return on your investment, which means your game won't make much money, which means you're going to have less money to develop the game with. And that is not good. That is actually bad. Bad for the longevity of your game, and that's not what we want. Because this game, from what I've played, is a phenomenal experience. I love almost every aspect of it. Now, specifically concerning dupes, because I know there are plenty of people that have argued you don't actually need them. And that's true. You really do not need dupes in this game. But at the same time, you don't need dupes in Wuthering Waves either. You don't need dupes in Genshin Impact. You don't need dupes in Nikke or Punishing Grey Raven. But just because you don't need them, just because they are not inherently imperative to your progression or your success in a game, does not mean they're not good to have. Let's take Angelina here as an example, or Gilberta as she's known in Enfield as an example. Her first dupe gives her an increase of 20% ult duration. Her second dupe gives her, if the battle skill final burst effect affects at least 3 targets, it restores your SP. Her third dupe is a 10% reduction in ultimate energy cost, which means you can ult 10% more frequently, which is a pretty big boost to your damage output the longer a battle goes on. So the longer you're engaged in a boss fight for. The fourth dupe, fly high effect and hint, damage dealt to target is increased by another 15%. That is big. Not game breaking, not character changing, but still a pretty significant boost and bonus to your character. Here is the fifth dupe. If no damage has been taken after 5 seconds to you, when Gilberta is on the field, basic attacks deal 10% increased damage, just permanently, that's it. So while you're out in the field, as long as you're not taking damage, you are dealing 10% more damage by default, which is, that is very big. It's gonna make clearing all kinds of content faster, 10% faster. It is, again, not imperative. It is not going to be game breaking. It's not going to be game changing, but a lot of these characters actually have boosts like this. Here is Li Fang, another character. Targets affected by turbidity suffer an additional 10% physical resistance reduction. Here's his second dupe. All attributes increased by a base 15. While not significant, that is still going to increase every area of the character. His third dupe gives a 10% reduction in ultimate energy cost. His fourth dupe, youthful nature effect enhance, every intellect and will grants the operator additional attack plus 0.05%, which is big. His fifth dupe, every 10 seconds the next dodge attack deals 50% increased damage. The damage increase effect can stack up to 3 times for 150% increased damage for his next dodge attack. These are all very big, and we're not going to jump into the 5 stars or any of the lower rarity units because it's unnecessary. You're probably going to fill up on dupes over the course of the game, but right here, this is more than enough reason to pull for dupes. Okay, you might not. And that is fine. You don't need to. We don't need to. I don't need to. But that increase in effectiveness still warrants obtaining those dupes. And essentially, we're actually penalized for doing that. We are deterred from doing that. It's almost as if they don't actually want us to do that. With the guarantee disappearing after 120, which again, I will stress is fantastic for free-to-play players. It genuinely is. Any acquisition of a dupe after that guarantee could put us out so much. That right there is incredibly unfriendly to anyone that is not willing to settle for a single character or single copy. Therefore, I think my opinion of the gacha has changed significantly, especially because you can obtain a lot of currency in-game. You can acquire thousands of premium currency per week in-game, tens of thousands of premium currency per month in-game, which allows for you to do dozens of pulls naturally without spending a single cent. This is disregarding events. This is disregarding everything else in game other than just doing your dailies or farming the content that is currently available that you can do every single day or every single week. But even so, even with all of this being said, I think personally, what makes it worse though for me is that every single guarantee actually resets. And I covered this in my video. Every single guarantee resets between banners. So let's say, for instance, okay, you don't check the headhunting details because you think Arknights Endfield is going to function or has a gacha system that will function like other gacha games. So you don't click this button. You don't scroll down to the very last line here that says the guarantee will not carry over to subsequent headhunting banners. If you're a new player that gets into it, you're like, oh, 120 guarantee, okay, and you only make it to 84, and you think the next banner, after 36 more polls, you'll be able to guarantee your character. That's not the case. It'll reset and you gotta do all the way to 120 again. I think that right there makes it incredibly un-user-friendly, unintuitive for new players, especially for players that don't play Arknights, because I know this is all a thing in OG Arknights, although this is admittedly more friendly. I don't like that. I think you could probably get around this if you just allowed for the attempts to transition over with each banner. So I have 79 attempts left to guarantee. Whoever the next character is, I should still have 79 attempts left to guarantee on that character. I think that would make it much more friendly to new players, much more friendly to free players, much more friendly to a lot of players in general. But I also don't like failing every 50-50 on every 80 polls indefinitely. I don't like that because I'm the kind of person that values just a few different characters and having those few characters powerful. I don't need to have, you know, 3 dozen, 4 dozen characters all being equally as strong or equally as weak. I want that handful of characters that are significantly more powerful. And to obtain that is going to be very difficult. Now, I will also stress, you can obtain additional characters via certificates, much like you can in Arknights. So there are alternate ways to ensure you can obtain a character, but this is also going to be very expensive to do because after, I think I've been at this for 5 days, I've acquired 110 certificates and I need 500 for a character, which I will take. I am honestly okay with this because Nikkei does this at 200 mileage. You can successfully purchase a character. Blue Archive does this. I'm okay with this. This makes it much more friendly to me for paying players, but at the same time, this makes it much more expensive to acquire as well. Additionally, there is a weapon banner present. I know some people are upset with this, but I'm honestly not. I actually think the weapon banner is okay. There are a total of 7 weapons. You are guaranteed a max rarity weapon every 4 10 pulls. So a 6-star weapon every 40 pulls. You obtain the currency to pull for weapons, the arsenal tickets, by actually pulling on characters, the headhunting system. Additionally, you can farm currency, you can farm pulls in game. But for the most part, and this is all I'll touch on because it's the only thing I actually have access to right now, as I continue to pull for characters over the first several days of playing, I obtained enough to do a weapon pull. And I obtained one of the weapons. I could do another 10 pull right now. I'll be able to do another 10 pull probably a couple days from now. I can continue to farm the currency necessary to pull in-game and just by pulling for characters. I think this is a great way of obtaining weapons because realistically, it doesn't cost you a single cent and you can obtain any weapon you want without spending a cent. So I think in the grand scheme of things, we've misjudged the gacha here, but at the same time, I still think if there is anything at all wrong with this game right now, it is still its gacha. I think, and you might disagree, you're welcome to disagree. I think this guarantee needs to carry over 100%. I think in the state that it is in, a lot of non-Arknights players are not going to be happy with that. I also don't like the fact that the 50-50 is not a guarantee after, you know, at multiple attempts. But I don't know what they're going to do with that. I don't know how they could fix that. I genuinely do not. Either way, I think we were kind of wrong about the gacha, and it's not nearly as bad as people were saying or alluding to. It is definitely much more free-to-play friendly, and I'm curious to see how they alter it after the reception and the feedback they've received thus far. Hey, where do you think you're going? I see what you're doing there. I see you navigating on over, scrolling on over to that X button. Don't you dare. What I need you to do is take a moment and click one of the videos that are about to appear as soon as I'm done talking. And trust me, you're gonna want it.